The summer of 2019 brought unbearable heat to the wealthy neighborhood of Meadowbrook Heights in Atlanta, Georgia. The large mansions stood like silent giants behind their iron gates, and the swimming pools sparkled under the blazing sun. Among these impressive houses, the Harrison estate was perhaps the most magnificent. It belonged to Richard Harrison, a successful businessman who had made his fortune in real estate. He lived there with his wife Catherine and their 16-year-old son, Marcus. Marcus Harrison was everything his parents wanted him to be. He attended the most expensive private school in the city. He wore designer clothes. He drove a brand-new car that his father had given him on his 16th birthday. He played tennis at the country club every weekend. And most importantly, he was the chess champion of his school for 3 consecutive years. Chess was more than just a game for Marcus. It was his identity. It was the thing that made him feel superior to everyone around him. He had trophies lined up in his bedroom, medals hanging on his wall, and certificates framed above his desk. His parents had hired the best chess coaches money could buy. They had sent him to chess camps in Europe. They had bought him chess books written by grandmasters. And Marcus had absorbed all of this knowledge with a hungry mind. But there was something else about Marcus that was not so admirable. He had a cruel streak that showed itself whenever he felt threatened or bored. He enjoyed making fun of people he considered beneath him. He laughed at students who could not afford the latest phones. He made jokes about people's accents and backgrounds, and he looked down on anyone who did manual labor for a living. This is where Gloria Williams entered the picture. Gloria was a 43-year-old woman who had been working as a housekeeper for the Harrison family for almost 5 years. She arrived every morning at 7 o'clock and left at 5 in the evening. She cleaned the floors, washed the dishes, did the laundry, and prepared meals. She was a hard-working woman who never complained about anything. She had kind eyes and a gentle smile that could light up any room. Gloria had come to Atlanta from a small town in Mississippi. She had moved to the city 15 years ago, hoping to find better opportunities for herself and her daughter. Life had not been easy for her. She had worked multiple jobs to make ends meet. She had cleaned offices at night and houses during the day. She had saved every penny she could. And she had made sure that her daughter received a good education. Her daughter's name was Maya. Maya Williams was 12 years old, and she was unlike any other child Gloria had ever known. From the moment Maya was born, Gloria knew there was something special about her. Maya had spoken her first words at 9 months. She had been reading simple books by the age of 3. She had taught herself basic mathematics before she even started kindergarten. Her teachers had always told Gloria that Maya was exceptionally gifted, but being gifted did not mean life was easy for Maya. Growing up with a single mother who worked long hours meant that Maya spent a lot of time alone. She could not afford the things other children had. She wore second-hand clothes. She used old textbooks. She had never owned a video game or a tablet, but none of this bothered Maya because she had discovered something that did not cost any money at all. She had discovered chess. It happened 3 years ago when Maya was 9 years old. She was waiting for her mother at the public library when she noticed an old man sitting alone at a table. He had a chessboard in front of him, and he was playing against himself. Maya had never seen chess before, but something about the game fascinated her. She watched the old man move the pieces for almost an hour, trying to understand the patterns. The old man's name was Mr. Theodore Johnson. He was a retired school teacher who spent his days at the library because his apartment was too lonely. When he noticed the little girl watching him with such intense concentration, he smiled and asked if she wanted to learn. Maya nodded eagerly, and that was the beginning of everything. Mr. Johnson quickly realized that Maya was not an ordinary student. She understood concepts that took other players years to learn. She could see patterns on the board that even experienced players missed. She had an almost supernatural ability to predict her opponent's moves several turns in advance. Within 6 months, Maya was beating Mr. Johnson consistently. Within a year, she had read every chess book in the library. Within 2 years, She was playing online against players from around the world, and she was winning more often than she was losing. But Maya never told anyone about her chess abilities except her mother and Mr. Johnson. She was a quiet girl who preferred to stay invisible. She had learned early in life that being different often meant being targeted. She had been teased for her worn-out shoes. She had been mocked for bringing simple lunches to school. She did not want to give anyone another reason to make fun of her. The Harrison family knew nothing about Maya's existence until that hot summer day in July. Gloria had always kept her personal life separate from her work. She never talked about her daughter at the Harrison house. She never brought personal problems to work. She was professional and efficient. And that was exactly what Richard and Catherine Harrison wanted from their employees. But on that particular July morning, something unexpected happened. Gloria received a phone call that changed everything. Her sister, who lived in Mississippi, had been in a car accident. She was in the hospital, and the doctor said it was serious. Gloria needed to go see her immediately, but there was a problem. She had no one to take care of Maya. Gloria's usual babysitter was out of town. Her neighbors were all working. She had no family in Atlanta, and Maya's school was closed for the summer. Gloria was trapped between her duty to her sister and her responsibility to her daughter. She stood in the Harrison kitchen, her phone in her hand, tears rolling down her cheeks. Catherine Harrison walked in at that moment and found Gloria crying. Despite her wealthy lifestyle, Catherine was not a cold woman. She had always treated Gloria with respect, even if she maintained a professional distance. When she learned about Gloria's situation, she made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. She told Gloria that Maya could stay at the Harrison house while Gloria went to Mississippi. It would only be for a few days, Catherine said. Maya could stay in the guest room. Gloria would not have to worry about anything. She could focus on her sister and come back when everything was settled. Gloria was overwhelmed with gratitude. She thanked Catherine again and again. She promised that Maya would be no trouble at all. She said her daughter was quiet and well-behaved and would not cause any problems. Catherine smiled and told Gloria to bring Maya over that evening. When Maya arrived at the Harrison house, she felt like she had stepped into another world. She had never been inside such a large house before. The ceilings were so high that her voice echoed when she spoke. The furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. The kitchen was bigger than her entire apartment, and there was a swimming pool in the backyard that seemed to stretch forever. Catherine showed Maya to the guest room, which had its own bathroom and a television bigger than any Maya had seen. The bed was soft and covered with expensive sheets. There were fresh flowers on the nightstand and thick towels in the bathroom. Maya felt like she was dreaming. Gloria hugged her daughter tightly before leaving for the airport. She told Maya to be good and to stay out of everyone's way. She told her to be polite and helpful and to call if she needed anything. Maya promised she would behave, and then her mother was gone. For the first 2 days, Maya did exactly what her mother had asked. She stayed in her room most of the time, reading books she had brought from home. She came down only for meals, which she ate quietly in the kitchen. She thanked Catherine for everything and offered to help with small tasks. She was invisible, just like she wanted to be. But on the 3rd day, everything changed. Marcus had been away at a chess tournament in New York, and he returned home that afternoon. He was in a bad mood because he had only finished second in the tournament. He had lost to a player from California, and he was furious about it. He stormed into the house, threw his bag on the floor, and demanded to know why there was a strange girl in his house. Catherine explained the situation calmly, but Marcus was not interested in listening. He looked at Maya with undisguised contempt. He saw her simple clothes, her worn sneakers, and her shy demeanor, and he immediately decided that she was beneath his notice. He rolled his eyes and walked away without saying a word to her. Maya felt the sting of his dismissal, but she was used to being treated this way by wealthy people. She lowered her eyes and went back to her book, trying to make herself even smaller than before. The next morning, Marcus decided to practice his chess in the living room. He was still upset about his tournament loss, and he wanted to study the game where he had made his crucial mistake. He set up his expensive chessboard, the one with hand-carved wooden pieces that his father had bought from Italy, and he began to replay the game. Maya was walking through the living room on her way to the kitchen when she saw the chessboard. She stopped in her tracks. Her eyes widened. She had not played chess in 3 days. And seeing the board was like seeing an old friend after a long separation. She stood there, frozen, watching Marcus move the pieces. Marcus noticed her staring and felt a surge of irritation. Who was this girl to watch him? What did she know about chess? He decided to have some fun at her expense. He looked up at her with a smirk on his face and spoke in a condescending tone that dripped with mockery. He asked if she had ever seen a chessboard before. He asked if she even knew what the pieces were called. He laughed and said that chess was a game for intelligent people, implying that she was not intelligent enough to understand it. He told her that she should probably go back to whatever simple activity she enjoyed, like watching television or playing with dolls. Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment and anger. She wanted to walk away. She wanted to do what her mother had told her and stay invisible. But something inside her had been awakened by his cruel words, something that had been sleeping for a long time. She looked at Marcus, and for the first time, she did not lower her eyes. She asked him quietly if he wanted to play a game. Marcus laughed out loud. He could not believe what he was hearing. This girl, this daughter of a maid, was challenging him to a chess game. Him, the 3-time school champion. Him, the player who had trained with coaches from Russia and Germany. Him, the boy who had just finished second in a national tournament. The idea was so absurd that he could not stop laughing. But then he thought about it, and he saw an opportunity. He could humiliate her completely. He could show her the difference between someone like him and someone like her. He could teach her a lesson about knowing her place. He smiled cruelly and told her to sit down. Maya sat across from him at the chessboard. Her heart was pounding, but her hands were steady. She had not told anyone about her abilities. She had kept her secret for 3 years. But now, sitting in this rich house, facing this arrogant boy who thought he was better than her just because of his money, she decided that it was time to stop hiding. Marcus let her play white, which meant she would move first. He did this as another insult, implying that she needed every advantage she could get. He sat back in his chair with a confident smirk, expecting the game to be over in less than 10 moves. Maya moved her pawn forward. Marcus moved his. Maya moved her knight. Marcus moved his bishop. The game began, and at first, everything seemed normal. Marcus was playing his usual aggressive style, pushing his pieces forward, trying to dominate the center of the board. Maya was playing quietly, defensively, moving her pieces in ways that seemed random to Marcus. But then something strange started happening. Marcus noticed that his pieces were getting tangled up. He noticed that his attack was going nowhere. He noticed that Maya's pieces, which had seemed so passive, were suddenly in perfect positions. She had built a fortress around her king while his king was exposed. She had control of the center while his pieces were scattered. Marcus started to sweat. He loosened his collar. He leaned forward in his chair, studying the board with increasing desperation. This could not be happening. This was impossible. This girl, this nobody, could not be beating him. He must have made a mistake somewhere. He must have underestimated her opening. He needed to find a way out. But there was no way out. Maya had seen every possible move Marcus could make, and she had prepared for all of them. She had studied thousands of games. She had analyzed hundreds of strategies. She had played against computers and grandmasters and players from every corner of the world. And she had beaten most of them. 23 moves into the game, Maya quietly said the word that Marcus dreaded most. She said checkmate. His king was trapped. His game was over. He had lost. Marcus stared at the board in disbelief. His face had gone pale. His hands were shaking. He could not understand what had just happened. He had lost to a 12-year-old girl. He had lost to the daughter of his family's maid. He had been completely and utterly destroyed. He looked up at Maya, expecting to see triumph or mockery in her eyes. But Maya's expression was calm and neutral. She was not gloating. She was not celebrating. She simply sat there, waiting to see what he would do next. Marcus felt something he had never felt before. It was a mixture of shame, anger, and confusion. He wanted to overturn the board. He wanted to scream that she had cheated. He wanted to run away and pretend this had never happened. But he could not move. He could only sit there, staring at the board, facing the reality that everything he believed about himself had just been shattered. The silence in the Harrison living room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Marcus continued to stare at the chessboard, his mind racing through the game over and over again, trying to find where he had gone wrong. But deep down, he knew the truth. He had not made any major mistakes. He had played well. He had simply been outplayed by someone who was better than him. Much better. Maya stood up quietly from her chair. She did not say anything. She did not rub her victory in his face. She simply nodded politely and turned to walk away. But before she could reach the doorway, Marcus finally found his voice. He called out to her, his tone no longer mocking, but filled with disbelief. He asked her where she had learned to play like that. He asked how long she had been playing chess. He asked who her coach was and what tournaments she had competed in. The questions poured out of him like water from a broken dam. Maya stopped and turned around. She looked at Marcus for a long moment before answering. She told him that she had learned from an old man at the public library. She told him that she had been playing for 3 years. She told him that she had no coach and had never competed in any tournament. She told him that she had learned everything from books and from playing online. Marcus could not believe what he was hearing. No coach? No tournaments? 3 years? He had been playing chess since he was 7 years old. He had spent thousands of dollars on training. He had traveled to Europe to learn from masters. And this girl, with nothing but library books and internet games, had just destroyed him in 23 moves. Something shifted inside Marcus at that moment. It was small at first, like a tiny crack in a thick wall. For the first time in his life, he was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Maybe talent was not something that could be bought. Maybe skill did not come from expensive coaches and fancy equipment. Maybe there was something inside some people that could not be taught or purchased or inherited. But Marcus was not ready to accept this truth fully. His pride was too wounded. His ego was too bruised. Instead of acknowledging Maya's superior ability, he convinced himself that it must have been luck. A fluke. A one-time accident that would never happen again. He demanded a rematch. Maya agreed without hesitation. They set up the pieces again, and this time Marcus played black. He told himself that he had underestimated her the first time. He told himself that now he knew what to expect. He told himself that he would crush her this time and prove that the first game meant nothing. The second game lasted 31 moves. Maya won again. Her strategy was different this time, more aggressive, more direct. She had read Marcus like an open book. She had seen his weaknesses, his habits, his tendencies, and she had exploited every single one of them. Marcus demanded another game. Maya won in 27 moves. He demanded another. Maya won in 34 moves. They played 5 games that morning, and Maya won all 5. By the end, Marcus was not just defeated. He was broken. He sat back in his chair, his face buried in his hands. He did not know what to say or what to do. His entire identity had been built around being the best chess player in his circle. His parents praised him for his chess abilities. His friends admired him for his trophies. His teachers respected him for his achievements. And now, all of that felt like a lie. Maya watched him quietly. She had seen this reaction before in other players she had beaten online. The shock, the denial, the eventual acceptance. She knew that Marcus was going through a difficult moment, and despite his earlier cruelty, she felt a small amount of sympathy for him. She spoke softly, telling him that he was actually a good player. She told him that his opening game was solid, and his tactical skills were above average. She told him that with the right kind of practice, focusing on strategy rather than aggression, he could become much stronger. She was not mocking him. She was giving him genuine advice. Marcus looked up at her with red eyes. No one had ever spoken to him like this before. No one had ever pointed out his weaknesses so clearly while also acknowledging his strengths. His coaches had always praised him excessively because his parents paid them well. His opponents had always been too intimidated to give him honest feedback. But this girl, this stranger, was telling him the truth without any agenda. For a long moment, Marcus did not know how to respond. Then, slowly, he asked Maya if she would teach him. The request surprised Maya. She had expected anger or denial or excuses. She had not expected humility. She looked at Marcus carefully, trying to determine if he was sincere or if this was some kind of trick. But she saw something different in his eyes now. The arrogance had faded. The mockery had disappeared. In its place was something that looked almost like respect. Maya thought about her mother's words. Stay out of trouble. Be invisible. Do not cause problems. But Maya also thought about Mr. Johnson, the old man who had taken time to teach her when he had no reason to. She thought about how that kindness had changed her life. And she made a decision. She told Marcus that she would play more games with him and explain her thinking if he wanted to learn. But she set one condition. He had to treat her with respect. No more insults. No more mockery. No more looking down on her because of who her mother was or how much money she had. If he could agree to that, she would help him. Marcus nodded slowly. He agreed to her terms. And for the first time in his life, he meant it. The next few days were unlike anything either of them had experienced before. They spent hours at the chessboard, playing game after game. Maya would explain her moves, showing Marcus why she made certain decisions and what she was planning several moves ahead. Marcus listened carefully, taking notes, asking questions, absorbing everything she said. He began to see chess differently. Before, he had always played to attack, to dominate, to crush his opponents as quickly as possible. Maya showed him that chess was much deeper than that. It was about patience and planning. It was about understanding your opponent's mind. It was about seeing the whole board, not just the pieces in front of you. Catherine Harrison noticed the change in her son. She walked past the living room several times and saw Marcus and Maya hunched over the chessboard, talking quietly, completely absorbed in their games. At first, she was surprised. Marcus had never been kind to people he considered beneath his social status. But now he was treating Maya like an equal, like a friend even. Catherine mentioned this to her husband one evening. Richard Harrison was a practical man who cared mostly about results. He asked Catherine who was winning the games, and when she told him that Maya won most of them, he was intrigued. He decided to watch one of their sessions. What he saw amazed him. This young girl, the daughter of his housekeeper, played chess with a mastery that he had never seen in anyone her age. Her moves were precise and calculated. Her strategy was deep and complex. Her ability to predict Marcus's moves was almost supernatural. Richard Harrison had seen many talented chess players in his life, but he had never seen anyone quite like Maya. After the game, he pulled Marcus aside and asked him about Maya's background. Marcus told him everything he knew, which was not much. He knew she had learned at the library. He knew she had never had formal training. He knew she had never competed in any tournaments. That was all. Richard Harrison was a man who recognized opportunity when he saw it. He had built his fortune by identifying undervalued properties and investing in them before anyone else realized their potential. He saw Maya the same way. Here was a diamond hidden in plain sight, a genius who had been overlooked by everyone around her. He made some phone calls that evening. He spoke to people he knew in the chess community, including a grandmaster from Russia who had moved to America several years ago. Richard described Maya's abilities and asked if the grandmaster would be willing to meet her and assess her potential. The grandmaster was skeptical at first, but Richard was persuasive. A meeting was arranged for the following week. Gloria returned from Mississippi 3 days later. Her sister was recovering well from the accident and would make a full recovery. Gloria was exhausted from the trip, but relieved that everything had turned out okay. She came to the Harrison house to pick up Maya and thank Catherine for her kindness. What she found surprised her. Marcus and Maya were in the living room, playing chess and laughing together. Gloria had never seen Maya laugh so freely with someone her own age. And Marcus, the boy who had always ignored Gloria like she was part of the furniture, looked up and smiled at her warmly. Catherine took Gloria aside and explained what had happened while she was away. She told her about the games, about Maya's incredible abilities, about how she had beaten Marcus over and over again. She told her about Richard's interest and the meeting that had been arranged with the grandmaster. Gloria did not know how to react. She had always known her daughter was special, but she had never imagined that Maya's chess abilities were this advanced. She had thought it was just a hobby, something Maya did to pass the time. She did not realize that her daughter was a potential prodigy. Richard Harrison called Gloria into his study that evening. He sat her down and explained his proposal. He wanted to sponsor Maya's chess education. He would pay for coaches, tournament fees, travel expenses, everything she needed to develop her talent. In exchange, he asked for nothing except the opportunity to help her succeed. Gloria was suspicious at first. She had learned long ago that wealthy people rarely did anything without expecting something in return. She asked Richard why he was interested in helping her daughter. What did he have to gain? Richard was honest with her. He told her that he saw potential in Maya, and he had always believed in investing in potential. He told her that it would bring him satisfaction to help someone achieve greatness, and he admitted that it would also bring recognition to his family if Maya became successful and people learned that he had supported her. Gloria thought about it carefully. She thought about all the opportunities she had never been able to give her daughter. She thought about the books Maya read at the library because they could not afford to buy them. She thought about the tournaments Maya could never enter because they were too expensive. She thought about her daughter's future and what it could become if she had the support she needed. She agreed to Richard's proposal, but she set her own condition. Maya would have the final say in everything. If Maya wanted to stop at any point, if she felt uncomfortable or pressured, everything would end immediately. Richard agreed without hesitation. When they told Maya about the arrangement, she was overwhelmed. She had never allowed herself to dream about what her life could become. She had always kept her expectations low because she knew that dreaming too big only led to disappointment. But now, for the first time, she allowed herself to hope. The Grandmaster arrived the following week. His name was Viktor Petrov, and he had been one of the top players in the world during the 1990s. He was now in his 60s, with sharp eyes and a stern expression that rarely softened. He had trained dozens of young players over the years, and he knew talent when he saw it. Richard had prepared the living room for the meeting. A professional chessboard was set up in the center of the room. Chairs were arranged for observers. Victor sat on one side of the board, waiting for Maya with a skeptical expression. He had been told about this girl's abilities, but he had heard similar claims before, and they usually turned out to be exaggerated. Maya entered the room quietly. She was nervous, more nervous than she had ever been in her life. She had never met a grandmaster before. She had read about Viktor Petrov in her chess books. She knew his famous games by heart. And now she was about to sit across from him and play. Victor studied Maya carefully as she took her seat. He saw a small girl in simple clothes, with intelligent eyes and steady hands. He saw no fear in her expression, only focus and determination. This surprised him. Most young players were intimidated by his reputation, but Maya looked at him the way one professional looks at another. They played their first game without speaking. Victor opened with his favorite strategy, a complex series of moves that had won him many games throughout his career. Maya responded calmly, her moves deliberate and precise. Within 15 moves, Victor realized that everything he had been told about this girl was true. She was not just talented, she was extraordinary. The game lasted 47 moves. Victor won, but it was not an easy victory. Maya had pushed him harder than he had been pushed in years. She had found weaknesses in his strategy that even experienced players had missed. She had forced him to think deeply about every move. By the end, Victor was not just impressed. He was astonished. He leaned back in his chair and looked at Maya with new eyes. He asked her how she had seen the trap he had set in the 23rd move. He asked why she had sacrificed her bishop in the 31st move. He asked what she had been planning when she moved her rook to the 4th file. Maya answered each question thoughtfully, explaining her reasoning in detail. Victor nodded slowly as he listened. When Maya finished speaking, he turned to Richard Harrison and said something that changed Maya's life forever. He said that Maya was the most naturally gifted player he had ever seen. He said that with proper training, she could become a grandmaster herself. He said that she had the potential to be one of the greatest chess players of her generation. The room fell silent. Gloria had tears in her eyes. Marcus was grinning from ear to ear. Richard nodded with satisfaction, as if Victor had simply confirmed what he already knew. And Maya sat quietly, trying to process what she had just heard. Victor continued speaking. He said that he wanted to train Maya personally. He said that she needed to start competing in tournaments immediately so the world could see what she could do. He said that time was of the essence because the chess world was competitive and Maya needed to establish herself while she was still young. Gloria felt a mixture of joy and fear. Joy because her daughter's talent had finally been recognized. Fear because she knew that Maya's life was about to change dramatically, and she was not sure if her daughter was ready for what lay ahead. She looked at Maya, searching her face for any sign of hesitation, but Maya's expression was calm and determined. She had been waiting for this moment her whole life, even if she had not known it. She had played thousands of games in obscurity, winning victories that no one ever saw, developing abilities that no one ever recognized. And now, finally, she had a chance to show the world what she could do. She looked at Victor and told him that she was ready to work harder than she had ever worked before. She told him that she would do whatever it took to become the player he believed she could be. She told him that she would not let him down. Victor smiled for the first time since he had arrived. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it transformed his stern face. He reached across the board and shook Maya's hand. He told her that they would begin training the following week. As Victor was leaving the Harrison house, he paused at the door and looked back at Maya. He told her something that she would remember for the rest of her life. He said that talent was a gift, but greatness was a choice. He said that she had the talent, and now it was up to her to make the choice. Maya nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. The road ahead would be difficult. There would be challenges and setbacks and moments of doubt. But she was not afraid. She had faced harder things than chess tournaments. She had faced poverty and prejudice and the cruelty of people like Marcus had been, and she had survived all of it. Now, she was ready to do more than just survive. She was ready to thrive. The months that followed were the most intense of Maya's young life. Viktor Petrov did not believe in gentle training. He pushed Maya harder than anyone had ever pushed her before. They practiced 6 days a week, sometimes for 8 hours at a time. They studied classic games from the greatest players in history. They analyzed modern strategies and opening theories. They played countless practice games where Victor would point out every mistake Maya made, no matter how small. Maya absorbed everything like a sponge. Her natural talent, combined with Victor's expert guidance, created something remarkable. Within 3 months, her game had improved dramatically. Within 6 months, she was playing at a level that typically took young players a decade to reach. Victor had trained many talented students over the years, but he had never seen anyone develop as quickly as Maya did. Her first official tournament was a regional championship in Georgia. Richard Harrison paid for everything, just as he had promised. He bought Maya proper chess attire, paid her registration fees, and booked a hotel room for her and Gloria. It was the first time Maya had ever stayed in a hotel, and she spent the first night just lying on the bed, amazed at how soft the mattress was. The tournament attracted players from across the Southeast. Most of them were older than Maya, and many had years of competitive experience. When Maya walked into the tournament hall, she felt the eyes of everyone in the room turn toward her. A 12-year-old black girl in a chess tournament was not a common sight, and many of the players dismissed her immediately. But Maya was used to being underestimated. She had learned long ago to use people's assumptions against them. She sat down for her first game against a 17-year-old boy who looked at her with barely concealed amusement. 40 minutes later, he was shaking her hand after being checkmated in 29 moves. His face was pale with shock. Maya won her second game, then her third, then her fourth. By the end of the first day, word had spread through the tournament hall. People were whispering about the young girl who was crushing everyone she played against. Spectators gathered around her board to watch her games. Tournament officials started paying attention to her matches. Gloria watched from the sidelines, her heart bursting with pride. She had taken time off work to be there. Sacrificing wages she could not afford to lose. But seeing her daughter succeed, seeing the respect in people's eyes as they watched Maya play, made every sacrifice worth it. Marcus had come to watch too. His relationship with Maya had grown into a genuine friendship over the past months. He had continued practicing with her whenever she had time, and while he still could not beat her, he had improved significantly under her guidance. More importantly, he had changed as a person. The arrogant boy who had mocked Maya on that first day was gone, replaced by someone who understood that true worth had nothing to do with money or social status. Maya won the tournament. She did not just win, she dominated. She went undefeated through the entire competition, and her final game against the defending champion lasted only 35 moves before he resigned. When she received her trophy, the applause was thunderous. Many of the people clapping had initially doubted her. Now they were believers. The victory attracted attention from the chess community. Articles were written about the young prodigy from Atlanta who had appeared out of nowhere and crushed experienced players. Chess websites featured her games, analyzing her brilliant moves and creative strategies. Invitations started arriving for more tournaments, bigger competitions, events that Maya had only dreamed about before. Victor was pleased, but not satisfied. He told Maya that regional tournaments were just the beginning. The real test would come at national and international competitions, where she would face players with decades of experience and training from the best coaches in the world. He increased the intensity of her training, pushing her to new limits. Maya's next tournament was a national championship in New York City. It was the biggest competition she had ever entered, featuring the best young players from across the country. The pressure was immense, and for the first time, Maya felt genuine fear. What if her regional success had been a fluke? What if she was not ready for this level of competition? The night before the tournament began, she called Mr. Johnson, the old man who had first taught her to play chess. He was elderly now and rarely left his apartment, but his mind was still sharp. He listened quietly as Maya told him about her fears and doubts. When she finished, he spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully. He reminded her of the first time she had watched him play at the library. He reminded her of the hunger in her eyes, the curiosity that had driven her to learn. He told her that chess was not just about winning or losing. It was about the love of the game, the joy of moving pieces across the board, the thrill of finding the perfect move. He told her that as long as she remembered why she started playing, she would never lose, no matter what the scoreboard said. Maya went into the tournament with Mr. Johnson's words in her heart. She played not to prove anything to anyone, but because she loved chess more than anything in the world. She played with joy and creativity, finding moves that surprised her opponents and delighted the spectators. She played like she had nothing to fear, because she had finally realized that she did not. She won the national championship. She was 13 years old, the youngest player to ever win the title. When she stood on the stage to receive her trophy, cameras flashed from every direction. Reporters shouted questions at her. Chess officials shook her hand and congratulated her. And somewhere in the crowd, Gloria wept tears of joy while Marcus cheered louder than anyone else. The victory changed Maya's life completely. Sponsorship offers poured in from chess organizations and equipment companies. Universities started reaching out, promising scholarships if she would consider attending their schools in the future. Interview requests came from newspapers, magazines, and television shows. Everyone wanted to know about the young genius who had taken the chess world by storm. But Maya remained grounded throughout all of it. Gloria made sure of that. She reminded Maya constantly that success was temporary and that character was what truly mattered. She told her daughter to remember where she came from and to never forget the people who had helped her along the way. Maya took these lessons to heart. She continued training with Victor, who had started treating her less like a student and more like a colleague. They studied together, analyzed games together, and discussed chess theory as equals. Victor had started calling Maya his greatest achievement, the player who had restored his faith in the future of the game. Marcus had enrolled in a chess program at his school, applying the lessons Maya had taught him. He was never going to be a prodigy like her, but he had become a solid player who won more games than he lost. More importantly, he had become a better person. He stopped looking down on people who had less than him. He started treating everyone with respect, regardless of their background or social status. He credited Maya with changing his perspective on life. Richard Harrison had kept his promise. He continued sponsoring Maya's chess career without asking for anything in return, but his investment had paid off in unexpected ways. His name was now associated with one of the most promising young chess players in the world. Business partners were impressed when they learned that he had discovered and supported Maya. His reputation had improved significantly, and he had gained something that money could not buy: genuine respect for doing something good. Catherine Harrison had grown genuinely fond of Maya. She had started inviting Maya and Gloria to family dinners, treating them not as employees but as friends. The social barriers that had once separated them had gradually dissolved. Catherine had learned that warmth and kindness were more important than maintaining social distance, and her life had become richer as a result. The following year, Maya competed in her first international tournament in Germany. She was nervous about traveling so far from home, but Gloria accompanied her, and Victor had prepared her thoroughly. The competition was fierce, featuring young players from Russia, China, India, and Europe, all of them trained by some of the best coaches in the world. Maya struggled in the early rounds. She lost her second game to a Russian player who exploited a weakness in her defense. She drew her fourth game when she should have won. For the first time in a long time, she felt doubt creeping back into her mind. But then she remembered everything she had overcome to reach this point. She remembered the mockery of Marcus on that first day. She remembered the library books and online games that had been her only training tools. She remembered Mr. Johnson and Victor and all the people who had believed in her, and she remembered what Mr. Johnson had said about playing for the love of the game. She won her next 6 games in a row. Each victory was more convincing than the last. By the final round, she had climbed to second place and needed only a draw to secure a podium finish. But Maya was not interested in draws. She played for the win and got it, a brilliant attacking game that earned a standing ovation from the spectators. She finished in second place, the highest placement ever for an American player at that tournament. The international chess community took notice. Magazine covers featured her photo. Grandmasters praised her style and predicted great things for her future. She had announced herself to the world. Back in Atlanta, a celebration was organized at the Harrison House. Everyone who had played a role in Maya's journey was invited. Mr. Johnson came, escorted by Gloria, who had become his friend over the years. Victor attended, wearing a rare smile on his face. Marcus was there with his parents, genuinely happy for Maya's success. Neighbors and friends and chess enthusiasts filled the large house. All gathered to celebrate the girl who had started with nothing and achieved everything. During the party, Marcus asked to speak to Maya privately. They walked out to the backyard, where the swimming pool sparkled under the evening lights. Marcus was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. Then he apologized. He apologized for the way he had treated Maya when they first met. He apologized for his mockery and arrogance and cruelty. He told her that meeting her had been the most important thing that had ever happened to him, not because of what she had taught him about chess, but because of what she had taught him about himself. He said he would spend the rest of his life trying to be the kind of person she had shown him he could be. Maya accepted his apology with grace. She told him that she had forgiven him a long time ago. She told him that everyone made mistakes, and that what mattered was how people changed afterward. She told him that he had become a true friend, and she was grateful for everything he had done to support her. They stood in silence for a while, looking at the pool and the stars and thinking about how far they had both come. Then Maya smiled and asked Marcus if he wanted to play a game. He laughed and said that she would obviously win. Maya shrugged and said that was probably true, but it did not mean the game would not be fun. They went back inside and set up the chessboard in the living room. Guests gathered around to watch. Gloria stood behind Maya, her hand on her daughter's shoulder. Victor observed with his critical eye, already planning more training sessions. Richard and Catherine watched with pride, as if Maya were their own child. The game began, and for a few moments everything else faded away. There was only the board and the pieces and the endless possibilities of each move. Maya looked across at Marcus and saw not the arrogant boy who had once mocked her, but a friend who had grown and changed and become someone worthy of respect. She made her first move, and Marcus responded. The game continued, move by move, each one filled with meaning and memory. Outside, the Atlanta night was warm and peaceful. Inside, a party celebrated a girl who had proven that genius could come from anywhere and that prejudice was no match for talent and determination. Maya Williams had started her journey in a public library with an old man and a borrowed chessboard. She had faced mockery and doubt and obstacles that would have defeated most people. But she had persevered, and she had succeeded, and she had changed the lives of everyone around her in the process. Her story was just beginning. There would be more tournaments and more victories and more challenges ahead. There would be setbacks and disappointments and moments of doubt. But Maya was ready for all of it. She had learned that the most important move was always the next one, and she intended to keep moving forward for the rest of her life. As the game with Marcus continued, Maya felt a deep sense of peace settle over her. She was exactly where she was meant to be, doing exactly what she was born to do. And no matter what the future held, she knew one thing for certain. She would face it the same way she faced everything else, with patience, with strategy, with determination, and with an unshakable belief in herself. The chessboard in front of her held infinite possibilities, just like her life, and Maya Williams was ready to explore them all.